What up? What up? We got a dope live coming up. We're gonna be talking about some trading psychology with my brother Dr. Stocks. About to pop up in a little bit. So we're gonna give him some time. It's been a minute since we've been on live. I got my selfie stick, so we serious over here. We serious. But yeah, give us like 1, 2, maybe 3 minutes, and we're gonna get the conversation going with Dr. Stocks. Right? Dr. Stocks is the man with the plan, and he's joining us.
The man with the plan. That's
Yes,
awesome,
sir.
man.
What's going on, my brother?
Happy day, man. I actually realized last night I left my rice hat in the vehicle at the parents' house, so we're gonna
Man,
we're gonna be without it. But in the meantime, we got the
man,
fluff. How you doing, man?
the rice hat, man. When I came back from Bali, that was the first thing my mom was like, "Man, where's the hat?" I'm like, man, my I would have to warn it through the airport because my bag was so full, like extra souvenirs coming back to the U.S. I have no room to bring that hat back. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, doing good. Just watching the markets. It's going up and down,
hmm
and it's enjoying all these waves. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, man. Well, the percentages have been pretty epic this year, on the bullish side. I was looking at the maps on finviz.com recently, actually just 40 minutes ago with a student, and we're looking at some of the percentages. I think Palantir's like up 130% on the year.
Mm,
It's wild, man. Wild stuff. So,
insane.
yeah, man. Well, to cue the audience, so we're on the same page, right? We had spoken a little bit how we're gonna jam out on some fear, right? Maybe talk about some limiting beliefs.
Oh yeah, fear is probably the number one topic right now. You can see the market is at all-time highs, and you would expect people to be happy, right? But there is an aspect of fear that's in the markets, and I could see firsthand, having a Discord community where people are a little bit scared to enter trades because they're not really sure if the market is going to keep going up, if it's going to drop, and you know how the market works. It really works off of fear. So angry, um which we could talk about, is like two sides of the same coin, right? Fear, angry. So yeah, well, we could dive into that. We could dive into some examples, and yeah, it's endless. When we talk about trading psychology, it's something that gets us into the trades, and sometimes it also is very hard to get us out of trades as well. So there's so many dimensions inside of that, and yeah, let's get this conversation rolling.
Cool, man. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I always like to label fear specifically as an illusion of something that might happen, right?
Mm,
And so we often think about like a fear of something, right? And it's always like something in the future.
mhm,
And if we think about in reality, our fears almost never happen the way we expected them to happen, you know?
mhm.
Um, I don't know if people can reflect on a particular fear from the past that they had and just ask themselves, like, out of all of your fears that you've ever had in life, how many of them have actually happened exactly as you imagine them to be, right? Like, there may be a few here and there, But I
Hmm.
think generally it's just an over imagination or an over projection of the mind. So I think that's like the stage that we need to start with is like it's in the future and it's an over imagination or over projection of the mind.
Hmm.
That's kind of the basis. From there, we can take it into trading. But yes, I'll lay that for you on your end.
Nice. Yeah, man. They say fear isn't real, but at the same time, it does have its real aspects of it. Um, so it's interesting, right? And it's like yeah, it's like a great area talking about fear. Um, because who am I to say your emotions of fear isn't real, right? Like we all scared of something. Like I've been trading for what, more than 7 years. So I'm not scared of a few things that someone starting out might be terrified of. And when we look at why that might be the case is because, you know, one, I've had experiences that I've had to work through to get to the point of not being scared of something. For example, holding a trade during pullbacks, right? Someone might not be able to process, hey, if this thing comes down, how am I so sure that it's going to go up? And that in itself is like a it's like a world of other questions because we never know if it's going to go up, right? We, we have no idea. And that's part of being a trader, just being comfortable with uncertainty. And that uncertainty is what we label as fear. But then, if we go down a rabbit hole, what are we ever really certain of, right? I mean, the only thing I know I'm certain of is death, right? I'm gonna die at some point, right?
Yes.
Um, so like everything else in between is we are uncertain, and if we feel like we are certain about something, it's more of our perception of it, not that it actually is certain. So I think that's why just trading is such a wake up call for a lot of people, no matter how successful you are in any other business, that it really introduces us to uncertainty on a level that we may not have been conscious of, really. So, um, yeah, I really love the idea of fear because I believe that in order to really manage that fear, you gotta run straight to it, right? Because if we're running around it, beating around the bush, the fear is gonna be able to take over, and we'll stay in those same cycles. Um, so yeah, I think uncertainty is just one of those things that we gotta get comfortable with. We gotta become aware that hey, we actually are uncertain. We don't really know what's gonna happen. And that's inside the markets and outside the markets, right? Um, there's so much things we could talk about whether we're actually certain about certain things. And yeah, like I said, when we go down that rabbit hole, it's just endless. When we could kind of have like a awakening where we realize, man, we really don't know anything. We're not certain about nothing. And when we fully feel comfortable enough to let go, which is ironic because you got to feel comfortable, uncomfortable, going through it. We find comfort in that uncertainty, and I think that's success when we're talking about trading. When we actually get to the point where we feel comfortable not knowing something, right? Once we enter a position, we have to be comfortable not knowing what's going to happen. And that's why a lot of beginners, they're freaking out. Even people who's been trading for years, they're freaking out because they're in a position they don't know, probably don't even know how they got into the position, but now they're like, man, I thought this was going to go straight to my target, and it's kind of like ranging a little bit, right?
Yeah.
and that in itself could be enough to bring us to that level of irrationality that just shifts our whole arena of decision making. So yeah, it's fun diving deep into what is causing us these fears, and when we go to the deepest level, it really comes down to our beliefs, right? Like you was mentioning earlier, what are our limiting beliefs? And that's it's funny because that's one of the things I did in Bali. I went to a shadow work workshop, and it's really talking about all the shadows we have, right? And those shadows are just beliefs about ourselves or about the world that we're not consciously aware of, but it's something that is affecting us in terms of how we move, how we think, in all ways. So until we become aware of these shadows, aka limiting beliefs, then we won't really be living in our full selves, and yeah, that's a whole topic because we get into healing and wholeness, and yeah, that's why I say trading is like my spiritual discipline. Once we get through these limiting beliefs and we start seeing progress, we see the progress in ourselves as well, and just we feel like we're just accessing a different part of us. So yeah, man, I could go on and
Love
on,
it.
but
Yeah, yeah, of course, man. Abundance, abundance. Great. So, yeah, I thought one thing that I picked out while you were speaking there was specifically about the topic of getting comfortable with that which we do not know, right? So I always bring this up in webinars with students. I say, okay, if you knew which trades were green and which trades were red before you push the buy button, would you click the buy button for the ones that are going to be red? And most people probably will say no, right? Why would I click the button for the one that's red if I know it's going to be red, right? But that's the reality, is that everybody's going to be pushing the buy button for the ones that they presume or know to be green. So subconsciously and consciously, we presume every trade is going to be green. Because if we knew it was going to be red, like actively, consciously knew it was going to be red, it
right,
wouldn't make any sense to push the buy button unless you're just like, I want to lose money just for fun. Right? And
that's a
so
good point.
just that process makes it so that we are presuming to know, right? And so that's why the emotions arise. It's
Mm,
because when you set an expectation of, let's take a random example, I'm going to have a great date with the spouse or a great date with the boyfriend or the girlfriend. Like you set that expectation,
mm-hmm,
and then first 5 minutes into it, fighting, tension, irritation, like now emotions have spiked because the expectations were set and the actual reality of the experience was not pleasant at all. Same thing with trading. We set the expectation of every trade subconsciously or
mm-hmm,
consciously is green. So then when we push that button and it goes red on us, now we're
mm,
freaking out.
right,
And that's where all of that comes in. So I like what you said, because we have to, it's basically called psychological priming, where we have to prepare our mind for not only the probability of red and green, right? Because this is a probabilities game, as you know, right?
right.
And we have to prime ourselves for that emotional shock. And so I think it's really interesting, and this is kind of like a question that we'll discuss and also throw it out to the audience, is like, how does one train themselves to become fearless. And I'll throw that over to you.
Fearless.
Yeah.
You know how that is, where it's kind of scary to be fearless because by that point you're probably dead, right?
Mm,
We're we're always gonna have emotions
yeah,
as
absolutely.
as we're alive. So to be fearless, when you hear that, it kind of sounds like we're void of emotion. But that emotion, the first thing that I think of is I don't want to get rid of my emotion, right?
Mm.
Because one, that means I'm gonna die. But the second thing is because the emotion tells me a lot about what's really going on. Emotion is really an indicator at the end of the day for me. It tells me if I'm doing something wrong, if I'm doing something right, because my body is way stronger. I'm more intelligent, or my emotions are more intelligent than my conscious mind. So, you know, fearless, in terms of the definition that we want, right? In terms of how do we maneuver with courage, right? And courage, it's funny because there's a book, one of my favorite books is called Courage. Excuse the dirt
Oh,
marks.
it's Osho, right? Osho.
Mr. Osho,
Yeah, yeah,
yes
yeah, yeah.
indeed,
Yeah, I'm aware.
right? And this book isn't that big, but it took me the longest to get through this book because every single line, like every single page, just makes you stop, and it's like a mind blown type of moment because it makes you rethink your whole life. Like I think in the first like page, um, he just tells you like courage isn't what you think it is, right? You actually don't want to get rid of fear. You want to be able to have the courage to get through it. And he goes on and on with a lot of stuff, but it really redefined my definition or my approach to becoming fearless. Is like, in my opinion now, like how do I get to that point, or how does anyone get to that point of being fearless? Is you have to go through the experience, right? Whether it's mental or whether it's in actuality, right? You have to go through the fire. And a lot of us, we're of trying to avoid the fire, right? Whether that fire is entering a trade or whether the fire is, you know, taking some lessons. Some people are scared to take lessons. That's a rabbit hole because some people realize it's gonna expose a lot of stuff that they're doing wrong, and they're gonna have to change. And most people don't want to change, right? In terms of like going back to being fearless, I think that it takes going through the experience and repetition, and through the repetition, the fear starts to fizzle out, right? And we might go through the fear process once, and we could say, okay, well, we jumped through the hoop of the fire, but some battles are bigger than others. Some battles are denser than others, and it's it's like you said, like expectations is a huge part of this because when we look at it online, we look at other people do it. It looks so easy, right? So it's like, why are we working so hard, or why is there so much of a process for something that we thought should be so easy? And the first thing that I'm thinking about is when I was in Bali and I did a workshop for making my own ring from silver. All right. So this ring. actually made it from scratch. This was like a bunch of balls of like silver, and
Nice.
man, it took us like almost about an hour and a half to make it from scratch. And man, I did not think it was going to be so much processes in between just to make a ring.
Yeah.
And it really, I thought about trading, and I'm like, man, people really don't know what they're signing up for, right? Like you have so much people thinking they're gonna get rich quick, but then it's not to say, hey, you're wrong for that, but it's like, hey, you have a real wake up call coming, and once you wake up and you realize this actually takes work, not only physical work of studying and using your brain, but the internal work of awareness, right? Being aware of your emotions, all right, because that's a huge part that is in the way, right? So I'm kind of going off on a whole nother topic and everything, but it all ties into being fearless and just getting to that point of having enough courage to get through the process. Because, like you said, if we knew that trade is going to be red, we wouldn't push the button. So my next thought is, okay, well, if most people knew that trading might take you 2 years, 4 years, 7 years, 8 years, like a doctor of work, would we go into trading?
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is interesting because I was exposed, and I presume most people here as well, but I could be wrong. But I was personally exposed to the trading realm through social media, YouTube ads, Facebook ads, so on and so forth, right? And I still remember even back then, right? That was 7+ years ago. We're right around the same amount in our journey, which is kind of cool. So 7+ years ago, I won't name names, but there were certain videos of a very popular person at the time popping off. And I still remember like, hey guys, just made 90 grand on my 3 day swing trade. Come and join the webinar, right? And so the mind processes in such a way, 90 grand, 3 days, webinar.
Mm,
Okay,
big
let's have
money.
some fun. Let's enjoy that, right? Um, and it's also interesting because I don't presume how long or how short it will take for a person. I agree, it could take multiple years. I think, and I actually just made a post about this, so it's very interesting that you said it. I made a post on the threads basically saying trading, paraphrasing, right? Trading doesn't have to take years. It only has to take the amount of time for us to calm down our ego, right? So, to the extent that I can calm my ego down, bring down my pride, bring up my humility, bring
Mm,
down my patience, sorry, bring down my impatience, increase my patience, so on
mm,
and so forth, right? To the amount that I can do that, the quicker I can do that, then the faster I can excel at this game, right? And so it is a true personal development journey. It is a radical facing of the self. And I think you're going to agree with this. I've come to realize that there's only two modes that humans live in. One is what I call growth mode, which is where I think most people want to be. Some people are there all the time or most of the time. Some people are there sometimes. And the other mode is comfort mode. And I think, I'm not making judgment, but just from perception of what I've seen traveling 60+ countries, it seems most people are living in comfort mode, which it's not a judgment to them. I'm not devaluing them any way, shape, or form. But I
mm,
always like to ask, does that person really, truly, deeply want to be in comfort mode? If they want to, Blessings to them, abundance to them. Wonderful. If they don't want to, then that's where we have to start getting into this realm of, well, what are some of the fear blocks, right? What are some of the fears why we're not going from comfort mode into growth mode?
Mm-hmm.
I do genuinely believe that maximum finances, maximum happiness, maximization of life happens in growth mode. That's my biased perspective, if you will, right? But I do think that humans thrive and enjoy being overall in a state of growth versus that state of comfort, right? But the bridge between the two is absolutely what we're talking about, and that's the bridge of fear. And I want to take this one layer lower than fear, and then I'll cast it back off to you, brother. I don't think it's necessarily fear per se,
Mm-hmm.
but I actually think that it's perceived pain is what's going on. I think there's a perception. I'll give an example of when I first started trading. When I first started trading 7+ years ago, I really struggled, fear, a lot of fear, to push the buy button. I was watching charts for 90 days straight. I watched
Mm-hmm.
the price action. I saw what was going on. I saw the volume bar. I saw the trend shift. I saw my EMAs that I was using at the time. Everything was telling me click the buy button. But like I couldn't do it, man. Like really,
Right.
I would go to push it and like I couldn't do it. And it was such a small amount of money. It was like one share of a 80-cent stock. Imagine
Mm-hmm.
that. Like I couldn't
Right.
even push the buy button with 80 cents, right?
Right.
And I went through this process for 90 days. I just kept saying, "What's wrong with you, man? Like like it's 80 cents, like what's going on, right?"
Right.
Um and the long story short behind that was that I had the perceived sense of the pain of failure. So I'm going to say that again. The perceived sense of the pain of failure. So I was imagining that I was going to have failure and that was going to be painful. Right? So that's that imagination again casting into the future. So
Mm-hmm.
if we take away and then I'll throw this back to you. If we take away the pain, do we still have the fear? And I would almost argue that I don't want to say fearless in the sense that fear goes to zero, because I agree with you. We need to have emotions 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's no perceived sense of pain on the other end of the
Mm-hmm.
action, I think we would be very quick to take the action, because if there's no pain, zero pain involved, then that's basically like comfort mode. Oh, I can get to growth mode without pain. I'm
Mm-hmm.
all for it. At least that's my reflection.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things like you said with your journey, you said fear of failure, and most people they have what we call FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. So I thought of like an acronym FOF, right? In your
Mm.
case, FOF. And it's interesting because like we all have fear, but it's in our own personal programming. For example, you had a fear of entering trades. I was like, I had a happy, what do you call it, trigger finger. I'm just entering everything, right? I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
I'm like fearless in that case.
Mm.
And I had to learn fear, but well, in a different sense. Like my thing was, okay, I'm entering trades, and my issue was exiting the trades after I got into profit. And in a nutshell, I had a fear of missing out on more profit. So I'm already doing good, but my issue was exiting the trades at a great percentage because my expectations were was that, hey, if this goes from 50% to 100%, then I'll be missing out on 100%. Which is, it sounds crazy to some people because like you have 50%, like that's amazing. Um, but going like a layer behind that is me having a performance based mindset where I always want to push, push, push. And that comes from like my athletic background of always pushing, 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 which works great, but it doesn't really work that good in trading. So, yeah, man, it's a lot of layers to go through. Um, like you said, with the fear aspect. Um, and I'm trying to stay on topic of the fear, but without going too far off. Um, but it was, I just keep thinking about this silver ring, man. The silver ring. It on the inside, I was able to write my own words in it from scratch, and it says abundance and
Abundanza, man, that's fantastic.
abundance, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it's funny because I do see that word dance in
Mm.
abundance, and it really is a letting go, right? Once we let go, when we dance, it was a point where during my trading journey, I just didn't want to dance, right? You feel so stiff because it feels like you're tight, you're waiting for something. But when I started to see the proportion between me letting go and my ability to physically move as well. And when we're finally able to dance, right, like these TikTok videos and everything, everybody looking so happy, it kind of speaks for our mindset as well, right? And abundance, like when we get down to the spiritual aspect, we really have everything that we want, we have access to, is just our limiting beliefs like we was talking about earlier. And it also ties into what you were saying, like how long does it take us to get to that point of fearless? And you said that it takes as long as it takes us to let go of our ego, pretty much. um the more we're holding on to our expectations, the more we're holding on to what we think things should play out or how things should play out, we're gonna continue to be in that cycle. So when you said that, I thought about this book. I think it was the monk who owned the Ferrari. I think that was the name of the book.
Mm.
And the
That's
whole
awesome.
man,
I
it was
mean,
like
I get it. I get the title, but yeah, keep going.
yeah, it's funny, right? Because we kind of see ourselves with that like monk mindset, and it was this guy. I guess he was working in corporate America. He went to the East, and he was living with a monk. He got trained for a few years, went through some experiences, and then he came back to the States. And everyone is like, well, his best friend is like, man, you're a totally different person. Like, how did you get so peaceful? Like, how did you get to this level of pretty much not giving a fuck, or just in that state of you know tranquility? And he's trying to explain how he got to that point, but also how anyone can get to that point. And one thing that stood out was when he said, if you're trying to let go of your desires, or if you're trying to get to this point that we're trying to get to, um, if you're, like you said, the harder you try, is the longer it's going to take. So he said that if you try to do it in 2 years, it's gonna take 4 years. If you try to do it in 4 years, it's gonna take 8 years. And it's like annoying because it's like, what do you mean, right? If I try more, I should. it should happen faster.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just really ties into what you were saying, just the art of letting go. And it really is an art because, you know, anyone could tell you, hey, just let go, bro. Like you're doing too much, you know, but we have to navigate what that means inside of us because you might be holding on to something completely opposite to what I'm holding on to. And we got to find that balance between letting go but still staying focused, right? And yeah, it's like so much of a variety of things that goes into it. There's no one formula, but we do know that most of us we have fear,
Yeah.
right? We got fear.
Yeah, and there's some practical applications that I was thinking about while you were sharing all that, like that translate really nicely. One of them I found is, and this may not be true to everybody's strategy, but after coaching hundreds and hundreds of people, I'd say this is very common. Less screen time usually equals more profits, not less. More screen time usually equals less profits, not more, right? I don't know if you found that true for yourself, but that's definitely true with me. And that's very true with others, right? So less screen time usually equals more profits. That's like, whoa, what's going on there, right? Like you had said, working harder does not necessarily equal more gains in the stock market, right? Um, the other thing is the position size directly controls, I call it the volume of our fear. So I always give this example, say, all right, John is a random man I just made up now.
But John,
Yeah. So John, $1 into a stock and it goes to zero. How are you feeling? All right. Okay, cool. Let's turn the volume up.
John's
Five
crazy.
dollars in $5 into the stock, John. Now it goes to zero. How are you feeling? About the same. All right, let's take it up. $200 in the trade, John, and that goes to zero. Now the emotions are stirring, and we keep going. Now 2 grand, 20 grand, 200 grand. It's the same model. We're putting in money, we're going to zero, right? So we're going to maximum failure mode, right?
Hmm.
But the dollar amount is increasing. So as the position size gets higher and higher, the emotions are getting more and more distressed. So I feel like controlling the volume button of the position size and less screen time, I feel like that's a really bite-sized way, or at least what I found in coaching and with myself,
Hmm.
to put our hand on the pedal of fear. So it's like, do I want more fear? Trade more. Take more trades, more screen time, more news, more analysis. Do I want less fear? Dial it back. Quality over quantity.
Hmm.
And then the same with the position size. You want a lot of fear? No problem. $500 in, $1,000 in, 20 grand in, 100, like take it to the max that you like. Or you want less fear? Dial it down. So I found that those two things are really like bite-sized practicals in my own trading and also in some of my students.
Man, you cracked the formula, man. You people they're gonna start winning now once they finish this live. They figured it out, man. So that's very true because um I think I'm like a I don't know what do you call it. I wouldn't call myself like a rebellion, but a lot of things that I do or how I think or how I attack the markets is kind of a little bit different, you know. But in that way, I would say I would need more fear, right?
Okay.
Because I'd say like I said, my issue earlier was getting out of positions, right? I'm picking
Yes.
amazing plays. The plays are working way better than, um, I would say the average, but it's because of my expectations is why I'm hanging around and staying into the trade. Someone said it unorthodox. My brother Kev. Yeah,
Mm.
that's the better word to use. So for example, I don't know if you know about Eli Lilly. Of course you know about Eli Lilly. SMCI. I'm trying to think of some other big names where when you trade the options, right, you put in maybe just a few cents in terms of the contract premium, that if it has a small move or even a decent move on the charts, that contract could go insane. Maybe like 500%, 1,000%, 2,000, 4,000, and once you experience that, that shifts, our expectations, right? Especially SMCI before it had its stock split, and it ran up to maybe like $1,300 from like $14. The option contracts were insane, right? On in terms of the weeklies, right? If you put in just, I don't know, you put in $50 for a 50-cent contract, you could leave that day with like $1,300 because that 50-cent contract went to $13 by the time the day was over. And you don't get those type of opportunities as much on stocks like Apple or Microsoft. Like, it happens, but with these superstar stocks that some, for many reasons, maybe it might be new newer in the stock world, so the contract haven't really updated to other stocks and stuff, but it really shifts your expectations. So I would find myself getting out of getting out of trades a lot easier on stocks like, let's say Tesla, for example. Tesla will give me decent returns. I'm not expecting Tesla to give me a 500% return in one day, right? If I get 50%, I'm good. So I don't really have any fear of missing out. But when it comes to something like Eli Lilly or SMCI, I'm like, well, I know this can move, right? I know if I put in a little bit, I could get out a good amount by the time the day is over. So I'm already irrational, right? But I'm not, because, well, I'm going to say I am. But in a sense, it is true, right? When you look at the option contracts, they do move a whole lot more compared to other stocks. But the thing is, I have to program myself to not let that fear of missing out get in the way of me exiting my trades on time. So, yeah, when I said, hey, I need more fear, right, and using your formula where, hey, if I turn up the size a little bit, that's gonna increase my fear. That speaks to what I need to do, because another
Mm.
aspect of fear, aside from the expectation standpoint, is that I take smaller position sizes that allow me to hang out in the trade a little bit longer than most people. And most people look at me like, hey, you're crazy, or this and that. But
Yeah, yeah,
like you
you're really
said,
you're squeezing the juice. Yeah, I like it, man.
right, getting all the lemon juice, because I'm trying to make some lemonade. I only got like 5 lemons, right? And people look at me like I'm crazy, but they don't know how much position or how much size I have on the play, right? Like the guy who has $1, the guy who has $5 on the play, or, you know, they don't feel much compared to having $500, to having $1,000 risk on the play. It's totally different.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I think what you said, it really teaches us about ourselves and how we could learn how to tune us to the right frequency for success,
Yeah.
honestly.
No, and that's really good knowledge of self, man, what you just said, because I would say it's very unique that like churning up the pressure kind of gives that sort of getting you into your zone, right? You need a, it sounds, if I'm not hearing you incorrectly, that you need a little bit of that pressure to make things happen, right? Is that what I'm hearing so far?
Yeah.
Yeah, that, no, I get it, man. That's understandable. Versus me, I was a natural born minimalist. So like I've always seen things like from a very minimalistic perspective. So when I first got into trading, like using even this, my first deposit was less than $100, just to get an example. And I knew what I was doing, and I learned really, really well from some very knowledgeable people. But even at that, like I struggled to use even the smallest amount of money. It was like I had this anxious attachment. You know how they talk about anxious attachment around relationships? I had
Mhm.
anxious attachment around my money.
Mhm.
Like if I use this money at all in any way, shape, or form, like it's going to get taken from me. And then I'm going to lose my freedom. Then I'm going to lose my happiness. And then I'm going to lose my lifestyle. Like there was this really intense clinging, like a very, when I first started, right? This
Right.
unhealthy clinging to the money. Like if I lose it, I'm going to lose A, B, C, D. And that created that illusion that we were talking about in the beginning that like money is truly, deeply, really mine. And that's an illusion. Um, just a couple examples. In 2022, we're having the financial crisis. Remember the market with the Ukraine and Russia? The market was very bearish that year. And I think it was like 30 plus major banks just got completely liquidated. JP Morgan had to bail them out. A few other banks had to bail them out. Like they just liquidated, right? In the instance that somebody did not have that FDIC insurance, their money gone. But keep in mind, insured up to 250K. So if you
Mhm.
have 500K in there, you don't got your insurance there. Right? If you have 5 million in there, you don't got your insurance in there, right? So you can imagine somebody who worked so hard to get their money, they got 5 million in this bank,
Mhm.
that bank goes under, one of many 30 others as well, 30 plus. And now, like you're insured your 250, but what about that other amount? What happened to the rest of your money? Right. And
Right.
so when that happened, that was another reminder to me. Not only has trading taught me this, but that was another reminder to me that this is not really mine. I think it's mine. Like those numbers that I see when I log in, like I think it's mine.
Mhm.
But like if banks like, hey doc, I don't like the way you're using your funds over there in Brazil to be buying coconuts and bananas or whatever, suspicious behavior, even though
Right.
I'm as clean as they come. Like they can do what they want to do. I deposited the check, the money's there. They can really, if they want to, do what they want to do. And this is just one example of many, but I had this revelation that money needs to be more like what Bruce Lee said when he said, be like water, be
Mhm.
like water, let it flow. Don't push. Yeah, that's it, man.
Like a water
Don't put,
jet.
I like you, man. Got the props and everything, Cameron. So
Thank you.
don't push, don't cling. Just neutral mindset, neutrality. Let it flow. And I found in that state, not only does more money come to you in your life and your lifestyle and your relationships, but also when you go to trade, you don't have that sort of subconscious pushing and pulling all the time. And I find that that's a really nice tranquility to ease the fear of trading.
Man, that's goals right there, man. Tranquility and trading. That's that's somebody's screen name. I feel like out there, tranquility traded. It sounds too good to be true, man. Because
Maybe we need to create an Instagram page, right?
yeah, that's fire, man. Tranquility. Because just even saying that, like, I think our brain just like calms down. Like, oof, I need that, right?
It's
Like,
awesome.
so man, because trading just brings so much. It's like I wouldn't say ironic, but it kind of is. When you been through the experience of trading, you think anxiety, depending on who you are, right? But tranquility is like the opposite.
Hmm.
So tranquility and trading, that I think that speaks for itself. Like that's where we need to be. Find that balance. For me, it might be increasing the size that we're playing with, or some other people it might be decreasing that size. So,
Hmm.
um, I'm glad we was able to hear about your formula because I'm gonna definitely use some of that, and I'm gonna be aware of it as I'm trading. Um, and how I'm gonna use it is I know that I do all types, every single type of trading there is. Scalping, day trading, swing trading, long term investing, and each of those takes a different personality, right? And I speak for myself. I have multiple personalities, right? Like the guy. I mean, I'm not saying like the guy from Split, but like that guy, he has like 20 different personalities. But I'm I gotta say for myself that I had to break out of trying to fit into one personality, and that's been something I've been struggling with, even coming on to live, even speaking on social media, thinking I have to be one way every single time. It was like sometimes I'm in my zone, I'm serious, like don't mess with me, right? Versus once I get all my work done, I'm super playful, like hey, let's party, let's do something, right? And if you met me in any one of those two different times, you would think I'm a totally different person. But I'm the same person. It's just I have different personalities based on what I'm doing or whatever the case is. And it's the same thing with trading. Like if you scalping, you gotta have that get out now, right? Type of personality versus if you're swing trading, you gotta have that bro, it's just pulling back. Like leave it alone type of personality.
Yeah.
Let it rock, right? For a couple more days or whenever it decides to move. And then investing long term is like, why are you even looking at the charts? Right? So these are like all different types of personalities. And maybe you know how it is. Some beginners they come in just to invest. They're like, yeah, I don't want to look at charts, right? I just want to I have some extra money and I'm just, just put it into something like Apple or let's even, Bitcoin, that's the hot thing right now. I mean, it's been hot, but people are catching on. And now they're starting to realize, wait, my account just went up, I don't know, 20% within a day or within a week or within a month, but then it might go down. And they're like, man, if I would have locked in that 20% while I had it, then I would have made money. But these are the people who, like I said, came in for long term investment. So what I've seen is people's personalities change once they get into this realm of any type of market. They start they kind of like dwindle down from being a long term investor to being a day trader, right? Because they're seeing how much they could make within these waves up and down.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just goes back to the theory that hey, you need a different personality for different types of trading, and that really comes back to being aware of who we are and what personality are we actually being, and is it suitable for what we're trying to do,
Love it,
so
man. Yeah.
yeah.
Profoundly put, man.
Yeah.
Um, Respectfully, I have to get going soon, Cameron, but I think what you shared there, man, was really, really powerfully put because I think self-knowledge leads to freedom, especially in trading, right? And so understanding, like you said, do I need more size to perform or less? Do I need more screen time to perform or less? Right? Do I need to take my long-term investing, like you just mentioned, and turn it into scalp trading because I'm capable of doing that, right? So I think that whole process is really, I think we kind of tapped fear here a little bit, man. Like the awareness, the mindfulness, the self-knowledge of what I need more of and what I need less of, that should calm the fear down, right?
Right.
Increase what helps you to stay mindful and tranquil trading,
Yes,
right?
indeed.
And decrease what's causing that angst and that push and that nagging that we all know so well about, man. Great, brother. I'll leave you with the closing words. I'll have to run here in about a couple minutes, but yes, any
Yeah, man.
closing reflections for us, sir?
I think, like you said, we took care of a lot of that fear conversation. And I'll leave people with, man, roaches can't hide in the dark, right? So what do I mean?
That's awesome, man.
Right? We shine a light on a lot of aspects of fear, and fear hides in the dark. So now that the light is on, we can see fear for what it is. And in this book, Osho wrote, well, technically he didn't write it, but this is from his lectures and his teaching. But it's called Courage,
Hmm.
and he pretty much says you got to run directly to the fear to, to really for it to go away. And like I said, fear hides in the dark. And what we did is we turned the light on, and just by having awareness on something, it kind of just dissolves,
Yeah.
right? And it's kind of like you could take that into anything, like relationships. If you have a conversation about an argument or something that's been bothering you, or anyone about, something going on, as soon as you start talking about it, you can become aware of it. Hey, I was this way, and that's why things happened. Just being understood, it really does a lot of magic underneath what's going on. And I think the more that we're able to shine light on these aspects of fear inside of us is, like quicker and easier it'll be for us to let go and, start dancing, right? Like we see you doing a lot of your posts, right? So
That's it, man.
that's it.
Abundanza, brother. Abundanza. I love it. Cameron, I look forward to doing this again with you again soon, sir. I want to thank the audience as well for being present. Some people stuck here the whole time I was looking at that. Impressive, beautiful. We appreciate the time, value, and goodness. So, to be continued, my friend.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, man.
All right, brother. Stay blessed, man.
All right, peace.